The text came through at 7:58 in the evening. I was in my motel room outside Missoula, Montana, packing up after 4 days of field work, when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I set down the coffee pot and picked it up. The message was from Vanessa. No hello, no preamble. Just 2 sentences straight to the point. The locks on the cottage have been changed. The property belongs to the grandchildren now. I read it twice. Then a third time, my first thought was that she was choking. Some kind of poorly timed sarcasm while I was 500 miles away. But Vanessa didn't joke. Vanessa calculated. Every word out of her mouth was a move on a board only she could see. I didn't answer right away. I set down the phone and finished pouring my coffee. Black, no sugar. The same way I'd drunk it for 40 years. Some habits don't change, even when your daughter-in-law decides to steal your home. I sat on the edge of the bed and thought about the cottage. 112 square meters of cedar and glass, perched on a ridge in the Cascade foothills. I'd built it myself in the early 90s, board by board, with my own hands. Every window faced a different peak. The deck overlooked a creek that ran clear even in August. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. And now Vanessa had changed the locks. I took a slow sip of coffee. Then I remembered the cameras. 3 years ago, Dr. Linda Chen from Pacific Northwest University had approached me about using the cottage property as a research site. She was studying the movement patterns of coastal black-tailed deer in old-growth forest. The cottage sat on 40 acres of protected land, part of the Donovan Conservation Trust. Perfect for her project. Linda had installed 12 wildlife cameras around the property. Motion activated, infrared, streaming live to a secure university server. 4 of them were aimed at the cottage itself. 1 in the living room, 1 in the kitchen, 1 on the front porch, and 1 covering the driveway. I had agreed because I believed in the science, and because the cameras gave me something that Vanessa didn't know about. A window into my own home. I picked up my phone and called Linda. She answered on the second ring. Frank, how was Montana? Uneventful, I said. Linda, I need access to the camera feeds, the ones of the cottage. There was a pause, a professional pause, the kind she used when processing information before responding. Is everything all right? Vanessa changed the locks, I said. She sent me a message claiming the property belongs to the grandchildren. Another pause. Then a quiet, steady voice. I'll send you the login credentials. You remember the server address? I do. They're time-stamped and backed up, she said. The university has a retention policy of 90 days. Nothing is deleted. She sent the link within 30 seconds. I opened my laptop on the motel room desk, logged in, and pulled up the driveway camera. The timestamp read, June 5, 3014 in the afternoon, the same day the text had arrived, just hours earlier. The footage showed Vanessa's gray SUV towing a U-Haul trailer backing up the gravel drive. Vanessa got out first, wearing designer sunglasses and holding a set of keys. Mark followed behind her, slower, carrying a box marked kitchen. I watched Vanessa walk up to the front door, insert a key, and pause. She turned to Mark and said something I couldn't hear. Tea! Then she pulled out her phone and typed. The next clip showed her with a cordless drill removing the old deadbolt. Mark stood off to the side, arms crossed, saying nothing. She installed a new lock in under 20 minutes. The kind with a keypad, one she could control from her phone. The third clip was from the living room camera, 6047 that evening. Vanessa stood in the center of the room, hands on her hips, surveying the space like she already owned it. Mark sat on the couch, staring at his shoes. Relax, Vanessa said, loud enough for the microphone to catch. It's done. He can't do anything for Montana. Mark didn't answer. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence of the motel room. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the highway. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen of the television. They thought I was helpless. An old man on a research trip miles away, unable to fight back. They thought the cottage was theirs for the taking. But I held the deed, not a photocopy, not a scanned PDF. The original, signed and notarized, locked in a safety deposit box at my bank. The Donovan Conservation Trust gave me sole authority over the property. Every decision, every transfer, every sale required my signature, and the cameras were still recording. I opened my phone and checked the live feed. The living room camera showed Vanessa unpacking boxes. She was already making herself at home. I smiled. If this story moves you, please take a moment to subscribe to Revenge Stories. And see, knock. It helps more than you know. She had no idea what she had walked into. I sat in that motel room outside Missoula for a long time after I closed the camera feed. The image of Vanessa unpacking boxes stayed with me. She had pulled the curtains open. I could see the lake through the living room window, the same lake I had looked at every morning for 30 years. I did not sleep well that night. The next morning, I made coffee from the motel machine and opened my laptop. I pulled up the camera archive. The system recorded everything. Every motion, every sound, every timestamp. I started with June 5th, the day she changed the locks. The driveway camera caught their arrival at 3:04 p.m. A gray SUV, a U-Haul trailer behind it. Vanessa stepped out first, all business. She walked straight to the front door, pulled out a drill, and removed the old lock in under a minute. Mark stood by the trailer, hands in his pockets, looking at the trees. "Come on, Mark, help me with these boxes." Vanessa's voice came through the camera speaker, tinny but clear. Mark said something I could not catch. He looked unsure. He kept looking back at the driveway, like he expected someone to appear. I watched for another hour. They brought in boxes, suitcases, a portable crib for the grandchildren. Vanessa directed everything. Mark carried. She did not lift a single box. The living room camera caught them at 6:47 p.m. Vanessa stood near the window, looking out at the lake. "Row!" Mark sat on the couch, hands folded. She had a bottle of wine open, red, something expensive. She poured 2 glasses. "This is it, babe," she said. "This is the beginning." Mark took a sip. "Vanessa, are we sure about this?" "My dad, he built this place. He's had it since before I was born. He's retired, Mark. He doesn't need $600,000 of lakefront property." The number surprised me. 600,000. She thought the cottage was worth 600,000. Vanessa leaned forward. "We can sell it. Split the money. Our kids will have college funds, real college funds, not community college. But the deed is in his name. I can handle the deed. You let me worry about paperwork." Mark stared at his glass. "I just don't want him to hate us." "He won't hate us. He's old, Mark. He's going to forget about this place in a month. He'll find some other hobby." I paused the footage. My hands were steady. I took a breath and checked the next segment. June 6, 7:12 a.m. Vanessa was already on the phone in the living room. She had set up a small desk near the window, my window, with a laptop and a printer. "No, the title is clean. My husband inherited it last month. We just need to move quickly." I did not know who she was talking to, but I knew what she was saying. She was already trying to sell it. The next day, June 7th, my phone rang. Dr. Linda Chen. "Frank, are you sitting down? I'm in a motel in Missoula. Nothing to fall off of. I've been reviewing the camera logs for the cabin. There's heavy traffic. People, more than I've seen in months." "I know," I said. "That's my son and his wife." A pause. "Frank, they're living there?" "They changed the locks. They think they own the place now." Linda let out a low whistle. "Frank, I have 40 terabytes of footage. Time-stamped. Motion activated. The cameras are university property, maintained by my grant. The footage is admissible as evidence in any court." "I know. I also have something you need to see." From June 5th. Vanessa made a phone call. She was talking to a title company. A woman named Diane Donovan. She asked if they could expedite a quit-claim deed. My chest went cold. A quit-claim deed! She was forging a transfer of ownership. How do you know it was a title company? I Googled the number, and I listened to the whole conversation. She lied. She said her father-in-law died of a heart attack last month. I closed my eyes. Of course, dead people do not contest paperwork. "Linda, can you send me that clip?" already on your server. I labeled it Vanessa phone call, June 5, 2023 p.m. Thank you. Frank, her voice dropped. What are you going to do? I looked at the still image on my laptop. Shh. Vanessa, smiling at the kitchen table. Mark, staring at his wine glass like it held all his regrets. I'm going to give her everything she wants, I said. But build a paper trail first. Exactly. I hung up and opened the clip. Vanessa's voice filled the small motel room. Yes, my father-in-law passed suddenly. Cardiac arrest. Very sad. But we need to move quickly before probate gets complicated. The property is in the Donovan Conservation Trust. My husband Mark is the sole beneficiary now. Diane Donovan's voice, professional and smooth. We'll need a death certificate. I can get one. My husband's mother, she's handling the paperwork. But we need to move on the deed now to avoid family disputes. I understand. We can start the quitclaim deed today, but it won't be recorded without the certificate. Send me the forms. I'll have them notarized. I listened to the clip 3 times. Each time, the cold settled deeper. Vanessa was going to forge my death certificate. She was going to declare me dead so she could steal the cottage free and clear. Mark. He did not know. I was sure of that now. The footage showed him in every frame, avoiding her, avoiding the phone, avoiding the truth. But he was there. He let it happen. I opened the next clip. Linda had been thorough. She had flagged the conversation Vanessa had with Mark after that call. The title company will start the paperwork, Vanessa said. We just need a death certificate and a notary. Mark's voice. This is insane. My dad is alive. He's not going to find out, Mark. By the time he figures out what happened, the cottage will have a new owner and we'll be 100 miles away. He'll call the police. On his own son. Please, he'll cry, he'll threaten, and then he'll give up. Old people always give up. I closed the laptop. I stared at the beige wall of the motel room. The air conditioning hummed. A truck rumbled past on the highway. Old people always give up. I picked up my phone and called Linda back. Can you give me access to everything? I asked. Every clip, every timestamp, every motion event from every camera? Already done. I just added you as administrator on the university server. You can download anything, anytime. Linda, I owe you. You owe me a steak dinner and maybe a research paper on deer migration that I can put your name on. I almost smiled. Deal! That night, I downloaded every clip from June 5th to June 6th. The entire archive, 18 hours of footage. I watched Vanessa and Mark settle in. She unpacked kitchen supplies. He sat on the porch and stared at the lake. She made phone calls. He checked his phone. She told him their plan, the way you tell a child what they will eat for dinner. At one point, Mark asked, what if my dad shows up? Vanessa laughed. He won't. He's old. He'll forget. She said it again. Old. Forget. Give up. I went to bed at midnight. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. I had a plan, but it needed time. It needed patience. It needed me to be exactly what Vanessa expected me to be. A forgettable old man who gives up. I smiled in the dark. The cameras were still recording. The Conservation Trust was still mine. And Vanessa had just handed me a documented confession on a silver platter. I woke up at 5:02 p.m. on June 10, 2024. The motel room was dark and the air conditioner rattled in the window. I reached for my phone before I opened my eyes. There were 3 emails from Linda Chen. She sent the first one at 40:45 p.m. The subject line said, June 10, 43 p.m., Vanessa with documents. I sat up and put my reading glasses on. Linda had gotten good at tagging the clips. The new batch was organized by date and time. I scrolled through the thumbnails. 1022 p.m., Vanessa on the front porch with a delivery driver. 2047 p.m., Vanessa at the kitchen table with her laptop and a portable printer. 3005 p.m., Mark walking past the camera with a box. 4003 p.m., Vanessa at the kitchen table with a stack of papers. The camera angle showed the entire tabletop. I opened the 4003 p.m. clip. The footage was crisp. The motion-activated system had switched to full light capture when Vanessa sat down. She spread the papers across the oak table. My table. I watched her pull a yellow legal pad from her bag and set it next to the documents. She worked for 43 minutes. First, she traced something from the legal pad onto a blank sheet. I recognized the motion. She was practicing a signature. Her own handwriting was smooth and fast, but the trace version was slow and deliberate. When she finished, she held it up to the window light. She smiled. I looked at the screenshots Linda had included in the email. There they were. 3 pages of a quitclaim deed. The typed portions looked official. I could see the county assessor's format, the property description I had written in 1992, my name and address. Everything looked correct except for one thing. The signature line was blank in the first 2 screenshots. In the third screenshot, someone had signed my name. I zoomed in. It was not my handwriting. My signature has a slight backward tilt from years of taking notes in dim forest light. This one stood straight up, the letters evenly spaced like a student learning cursive for the first time. She had practiced on the legal pad for 10 minutes before attempting the real copy. I watched the clip continue. Vanessa photographed each page with her phone and placed them in a manila folder. Then she opened her laptop and made a video call. The audio was clear through the camera feed. She called someone named Jennifer. "I need a favor," Vanessa said. Jennifer's voice came through tinny. "What kind of favor?" "I have some documents that need to be filed. A quitclaim deed. My husband's father signed it before he left for his research trip. He wants us to take over the property." "Wouldn't he file it himself?" Vanessa laughed. The same hollow laugh I had heard at Christmases and birthday dinners. "Frank is 68 years old, Jenny. He forgets things. He asked us to handle everything while he's traveling to Montana. Is Mark okay with it?" "Mark does what I tell him. Look, I just need you to call the county clerk and ask about the notarization requirement. I don't want to drive all the way down there if they need a witness." Jennifer paused. "You know I can't notarize something I didn't see signed." "I'm not asking you to notarize it. I'm asking you to find out what the requirements are. You work at the courthouse. Isn't that a normal lunch break phone call?" "Fine. Text me the details." The call ended. Vanessa sat back in her chair and stretched. She looked at the blank notary line on the deed and made a small noise, almost a hum. Then she opened her phone and typed a text. I paused the footage. I looked at the timestamp, 4:54 p.m., less than an hour after the deed was signed. Vanessa had not spent a single day wondering if what she was doing was wrong. She had not hesitated. She had not asked Mark what he thought. She had ordered a portable printer and a legal pad and started forging my signature before I could have driven from Montana halfway back to Washington. 430 miles. She had planned this before she changed the locks. The lock change was not the crime. It was stage 1. Stage 2 was the forgery. Stage 3 was the sale. I did not feel angry. I felt cold. The kind of cold that settles into your bones when you finally see the shape of something you already suspected. I had known Vanessa was greedy. I had known she saw the cottage as a check waiting to be cashed. But I had not known she was willing to commit a felony to collect it. I called my lawyer at 6:15 p.m. I had his direct number in my wallet, written on a yellow sticky note that I had kept for 17 years because he had once said I could call him at any hour. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Frank, what's wrong?" "I need you to listen to something." I read him the property description from the trust deed. I told him I had camera footage of a woman forging my signature on a quitclaim deed and discussing filing it with the county. I told him the forgery occurred on June 10, 2024 at 4:03 p.m. Pacific Time, and that I had time-stamped video evidence, photographs of the document, and an audio recording of the forger asking a courthouse employee to help her avoid the notary requirement. There was silence on his end. Then he said, "Send me everything." I forwarded Linda's email with the screenshots, the video files, and the audio clip. I attached a brief statement written in the motel word processor. "Ma!" 2 minutes later, my lawyer called back. "It's a Class B felony," he said. "Forgery of a real property document carries a maximum of 10 years. The attempted filing with intent to defraud adds an additional 3 to 5. She admitted intent on the recording. "You have everything a prosecutor needs. I know. What do you want to do? I looked out the motel window. The parking lot was empty except for a blue sedan and a semi-truck idling in the far corner. I thought about Vanessa sitting at my kitchen table practicing my signature until it looked real enough to steal my mountain. I thought about Mark, who probably did not know about the forgery but had driven the moving truck. He had changed the lock. He had opened the door. I want to let her try to sell it, I said. Frank, if she files that deed, even if it's not notarized, she could create a cloud on the title. It could take months to clear, I know. But I also know that attempted sale is the difference between her saying she planned to sell and her actually committing the fraud. You told me once that evidence is strongest when the crime is in motion. He was quiet again. When do you want to move? Not yet. I need to document the attempt. I need her to reach out to a real estate agent. I need to catch her trying to put the cottage on the market. Then we filed the report. That's risky. It's necessary. If she files it while you're waiting, we're looking at court motions and injunctions. It won't stick, but it will cost you time and money. I have time, I have patience, and I have 40 terabytes of camera footage showing everything she's done since the truck arrived. Let her dig the hole deeper. My lawyer sighed. I heard the sound of typing in the background. I'm going to send you a certified letter by courier. Do not open it in front of anyone. Inside, you will find a notarized statement from me affirming that the original trust deed is valid and unchallenged. If anyone asks, you show that. It buys you another few weeks while we build the criminal case. Send it to the motel. I'll be here until the 14th. Frank, he paused. If she finds out what you're doing, she might escalate. She might damage the cottage, try to destroy evidence. I know. Are you prepared for that? I looked at the camera feed still open on my phone. The kitchen was empty now. The manila folder sat on the edge of the counter, next to the coffee maker. Vanessa was somewhere in the back of the house, moving boxes. The cameras are still running, I said. The call came on June 12, 2024, at 10:23 in the morning. I was sitting in my motel room with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. My phone sat on the nightstand. I had rehearsed what I would say 3 times, maybe 4. I tapped Mark's contact and waited. It rang 5 times before he answered. His face appeared on the screen, slightly pixelated, the background behind him showing my kitchen. His kitchen now, he thought. The oak table I built in 1992 was visible over his shoulder. Hey, Dad. His voice was careful, the way it always was when Vanessa was nearby. Mark. I kept my voice flat. I need to talk to you and Vanessa. She's right here. Vanessa appeared beside him, her chin lifted, a tight smile already on her face. She looked relaxed, confident, like someone who had already won. Frank, she said, drawing out my name like it amused her. To what do we owe the pleasure? I didn't return the smile. I know you changed the locks on my cottage. Vanessa blinked once, recovered in half a second. Oh, that, she waved a hand. We had to, for security. The place was sitting empty. It was empty because I was on a research trip. We discussed this as a family, she said, her tone smooth. The property belongs to the grandchildren now. It's only fair. We didn't discuss anything. Mark shifted in his chair. His eyes dropped to the table. Hey! He knew. He always knew. Vanessa's smile didn't falter. I sent you a text. You didn't respond. I assumed you understood. I understood perfectly, I said. That's why I'm calling. She tilted her head, mocking concern. Are you upset, Frank? You know we only want what's best for the family. The cottage has been sitting there for years. You barely use it. It's not about use. It's about ownership, Vanessa laughed. It was bright and hollow like glass breaking in another room. Sweetie, you're welcome to visit whenever you want. We're not monsters. But the deed says what it says. I let that sit for a beat. Let her enjoy the silence. The deed, I said slowly, that you forged. The air on the video call changed. Mark's head snapped up. Vanessa's smile froze and then reanimated. Wider this time. I have no idea what you're talking about. You do, I said. You sat at my oak table. You used a yellow legal pad to practice my signature. You printed the quitclaim deed on a portable printer you brought from home. It's all on video. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. What video? The wildlife cameras. The ones Dr. Linda Chen installed for her research. They record 24/7, audio and visual. Motion activated with timestamps. I paused. I've been watching you unpack. The color left Vanessa's face in a slow wash. Ooh! She didn't blink, didn't move. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Mark said, You have cameras in the house? I have cameras everywhere, 12 of them. 4 aimed at the cottage. Vanessa recovered faster than I expected. She straightened her shoulders and forced a laugh. Those cameras don't prove anything. We have a deed. We have possession. You have a deed with a forged signature on it. Mark and I own that property, she said, her voice rising. We have rights. You have nothing, I said. I hold the conservation trust. The deed you forged is void. It was void the moment you printed it. Her face went pale again. That was the second time, I counted. The trust, she repeated. The Donovan Conservation Trust. I am the sole manager. The cottage sits on trust land. I don't own the property outright. I manage it. And only I have the authority to transfer it. Mark's voice was small. Dad, I didn't know about the trust. She told me we could just move in and sort it out later. You didn't ask. Vanessa's face twisted. She leaned into the camera, her voice dropping low. This isn't over, old man. We have resources. We have a lawyer. We will see you in court. I smiled. Sweetheart, we haven't even started. I ended the call. My phone felt warm in my hand. I set it down on the nightstand and picked up my cold coffee. Took a long sip. Then I opened the camera feed again. The kitchen was empty now. Vanessa had left the frame. But I knew she was in there, somewhere, scrambling. The clock was ticking, and I had all the time in the world. The invitation came on June 19th, a text from Mark's number, but the wording was all Vanessa. Dad, we're having a family dinner at the cottage tomorrow. Everyone will be there. We'd love for you to come. It's time to move forward. Move forward. As if I was the one holding things up. I replied with a single word. I'll be there. Then I called Linda Chen. She had the compilation ready. 36 minutes of footage, edited and time-stamped. Every angle, every conversation, every lie. On June 20th, I drove up the mountain road at 3 in the afternoon. The driveway was full of cars. Mart's SUV, Vanessa's sedan, my sister's minivan, Margaret's old pickup truck. 2 other vehicles I didn't recognize. I parked at the bottom of the driveway and walked up. The front door had a new keypad lock, sleek and modern. I didn't knock. I just stood there. The door opened. Mark was on the other side. He looked at me with hollow eyes. Dad, hey, come in. I stepped inside. The cottage smelled like roasted chicken and fresh bread. My oak table was covered with serving dishes. 15 people sat around it. Family, friends. Vanessa's mother, Gloria, Mark's cousin from Seattle. Vanessa stood at the head of the table, holding a glass of wine. Hey. She wore a cream blouse and a smile that didn't touch her eyes. Frank, so glad you could make it. I didn't answer. I walked to my chair at the far end of the table. The chair I built in 1992, the chair Vanessa had pushed against the wall. I sat down. Margaret was 2 seats to my left. She reached over and touched my hand. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. The dinner started. Plates were passed. Gloria talked about her garden. Someone asked about my research trip. I gave short answers. Vanessa kept refilling glasses. At 6:45, Vanessa stood up and tapped her glass with a fork. Everyone, thank you for coming. Mark and I wanted to gather you all here tonight to celebrate. This cottage has been in the Donovan family for 30 years. And now, with Frank's blessing, it's going to stay in the family for generations. She looked at me. Right, Frank. I set down my fork. No. The table went quiet. Vanessa's smile flickered. I'm sorry? I pulled the tablet from my jacket pocket. I had loaded the video files that morning. I placed the tablet on the table, propped against a salt shaker, and pressed play. I brought something to share, I said. The first clip was from June 5th, 3:14 p.m. Vanessa getting out of her SUV, a drill in her hand. Walking to my front door, the sound of the drill motor. The old lock falling to the porch. Someone gasped. I think it was my sister. Vanessa's face went pale. Turn that off. I didn't move. The clip continued. Vanessa walking inside. Mark following with a box, her voice clear as a bell. He's not coming back here. By the time he figures it out, we'll own it. Gloria stared at her daughter. What is this? The next clip was June 5th, 8:23 p.m. Vanessa at the kitchen table. On the phone with the title company. My former father-in-law died last month. We need the quitclaim deed form sent over. Margaret dropped her fork. It clattered against the plate. The next clip was June 10th, 4:03 p.m. Vanessa at the same table. Yellow legal pad. She was practicing my signature. Over and over. Then she laid the quitclaim deed flat and signed my name, whispering around the table. My cousin pushed back from the table. Vanessa, what the hell? She tried to grab the tablet. Mark's cousin caught her wrist. Sit down, he said. She didn't. She stood there, breathing hard, eyes darting. The next clip was June 10th, 6:47 p.m. Vanessa's voice muffled. Once it's recorded, it's done. He has 30 days to contest it, and by then we'll have sold it for $600,000. The room was dead silent. I pressed pause. I looked at Mark. He was staring at the table. His hands were shaking. I looked at Vanessa. Her face was tight, not embarrassed, furious. Those clips don't prove anything, she said. They're doctored. He's old. He doesn't know how technology works. I didn't answer her. I turned to the table. The Donovan Conservation Trust holds the deed to this property. I am the sole trustee. The quitclaim deed Vanessa signed is void. It has been void since the moment she printed it. I have already removed Mark and Vanessa from the trust. Vanessa's voice cracked. You can't do that. I already did. The amendment was notarized on June 14th. Copies have been sent to every beneficiary. Mark finally looked up. His eyes were wet. Dad, I didn't know about the forgery. I swear. You knew enough? I said. Margaret stood up. She pulled a folded document from her purse. I'm seeking restrictions on Vanessa's access to the children. She's facing forgery charges. She tried to steal my former father-in-law's home. She's not fit to be around my kids. Vanessa wheeled on her. You have no right. I stood up and walked to the door. The police had arrived. 2 officers in dark blue uniforms. They had been waiting down the road, as arranged. It's already done, I said. The police are here. Art just stared at me, tears running down his face. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I stepped out onto the porch and let the cool evening air hit my face. Behind me, I heard Vanessa shouting, Gloria crying, my cousin telling everyone to stay calm. I didn't look back. The police officers stepped past me into the cottage. I didn't follow them inside. I stood on the porch and listened. Vanessa's voice went high and sharp. This is a family matter. You don't need to be here. The officer's voice was calm. Professional. Ma'am, we have a report of forgery and attempted fraud. We need you to come with us. Gloria started crying. Loud, theatrical sobs. She didn't do anything. This is harassment. I heard Mark's voice, quiet and broken. Vanessa, just go with them. Please, just go. I am not going anywhere. This is my house. I have a deed. The officer said, Ma'am, the deed is void. The property belongs to the Donovan Conservation Trust. You need to come with us now. There was a long silence. Then the sound of handcuffs clicking closed. Vanessa came out first, 2 officers flanking her. Her eyes were wild. She looked at me and her face twisted. "You'll pay for this. You hear me?" "You'll pay." I said nothing. "They put her in the back of the cruiser." Gloria followed, still crying, asking who she should call, telling the officers they were making a mistake. The cruiser pulled away. The red and blue lights faded down the mountain road. I turned and went back inside. The cottage was quiet. The oak table still had serving dishes on it. Half-eaten food, spilled wine, someone's napkin on the floor. It looked like a party that had been interrupted by a tornado. Mark was sitting in the corner, head in his hands. Margaret stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Not comforting, just present. I sat down across from him. He looked up. His face was red, puffy. He looked older than his 38 years. "Dad, I didn't know she was going to forge anything. I swear to you, I thought we were just staying here. I didn't know about the deed." I believed him. Partially. He had known enough to come along. He had known enough to change the locks. But he hadn't known how far she was willing to go. "Where are you going to stay?" I asked. "I don't know." Margaret spoke. "He can stay with me, the spare room, until he figures things out." Art looked at her, surprised, grateful, ashamed. I nodded. "That's good." He stood up, walked toward me, stopped. "I'm sorry, Dad." "I'm so sorry." I looked at him. "My son, the boy who used to help me split firewood, who learned to fish in the lake below the ridge, who married the wrong woman and let her lead him off a cliff." "I know," I said. "We'll talk. Not tonight." He nodded, followed Margaret out the door. The cottage was empty. I walked through it slowly. The kitchen where Vanessa had printed the forged deed. The living room where she had made her phone call about the title company. The bedroom where they had slept. Every room had a camera. Every room had the truth. I turned off the lights, locked the front door, the new keypad lock. I entered my own code, changed it, and walked to my truck. The drive back to town took an hour. I called Linda Chen on the way. "It's over," I said. "Arrested?" "Yes." "Good. The footage is being cataloged for the prosecutor. They'll have everything they need." "Thank you, Linda, for everything." "You're welcome, Frank. What are you going to do with the place?" I thought about it. The cottage had been my home for 30 years. I had built it with my own hands. Every nail, every beam, every window. But it wasn't a home anymore, not the way it used to be. It was evidence now, a crime scene, almost. "I'm going to donate it," I said, "to the university. Make it a permanent research station." Linda was quiet for a moment. "Are you sure?" "It's the right thing. The Conservation Trust was always about protecting the land. The cottage was just my part of it. Now the land gets the whole thing." "Okay, Frank. I'll start the paperwork on my end." The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers and paperwork. Vanessa was charged with forgery and attempted fraud. She posted bail at $50,000. Her real estate license was suspended pending review. The local news picked it up. A small story. Daughter-in-law tries to steal father's mountain cabin. The public didn't know the details, but the family did. Gloria called me twice, demanding I drop the charges. Demanding I let Vanessa go. I listened to her messages and deleted them. Mark moved in with Margaret. He started divorce proceedings the same week. Margaret told me he cried when he signed the papers. He said he didn't recognize Vanessa anymore. Maybe he never really knew her. The grandchildren didn't understand. They were 5 and 7. They asked why Vanessa was in trouble. Why Daddy didn't live with them anymore. Margaret handled it with grace. She told them the truth, but gently. Age appropriate. She was a good mother. I signed the donation papers on July 1st. The cottage became property of Pacific Northwest University. Official designation, Donovan Ridge Research Station. Linda Chen was appointed site director. I kept one key, a symbolic one. Linda said I could visit any time I wanted. August 15th, Vanessa was sentenced. She stood before the judge in a gray suit. Her lawyer argued for leniency. First offense. No prior record. The mother of 2 young children. The judge sentenced her to 3 years of probation, 800 hours of community service. Her forgery defense cost her $20,000 in legal fees paid from her savings. Her real estate license was revoked permanently. She walked out of the courtroom with Gloria. She didn't look at me. I didn't look at her either. Earlier, on July 1st, I drove up to the cottage for the first time since the dinner. Linda was there, setting up equipment, new cameras, better ones. A small desk in the corner of the living room with a monitor showing live feeds of deer and bears and birds. "Welcome to the research station," she said, smiling. I walked around. The place looked different, clean, empty of family drama, full of purpose. "I brought something," I said. I pulled a small wooden plaque out of my bag, copper lettering on oak. Whitfield Ridge Research Station, dedicated to the conservation of Pacific Northwest forests and wildlife. "I hung it above the front door." Linda nodded. "It looks good there." I stood on the porch and looked out at the forest. The mountains, the lake below, the place I had loved for 30 years was no longer mine. And that was exactly right. The grandchildren came the next weekend. Margaret drove them up. They ran through the cottage like they owned it, touching everything, asking questions about the cameras, spotting a deer through the window. I took them fishing at the lake, the same spot I had taught their father 30 years earlier. The 7-year-old caught a trout. She held it up, proud and laughing. "Grandpa, look." I helped her release it back into the water, watched it swim away. "It's a good place," I said. "This is a good place." The sentencing hearing was on August 15th. I sat in the back row. Mark sat 3 rows ahead, alone. Vanessa's mother, Gloria, was in the front, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. The judge read the charges. Forgery in the first degree. Attempted theft by deception, 2 counts of filing a false document. Vanessa stood in her gray suit, the same one she had worn to close deals. Her voice was steady. "I made a terrible mistake," she said. "I let greed cloud my judgment." The judge was not moved. He sentenced her to 36 months probation, 800 hours of community service. The forged deed was voided permanently. Vanessa would have a felony record for the rest of her life. She did not look at me when they let her out. Mark sat in the parking lot for an hour after. I walked past his car. He rolled down the window. "Dad," he said. "Mark." "I'm sorry." His voice cracked. "I should have stopped her." "I should have." "I know," I said. I walked to my truck and drove home. The divorce had been filed the week of the arrest. Mark signed the papers without a fight. He moved into Margaret's spare bedroom. She gave him the basement. He slept on a pull-out couch. Margaret already had custody of the grandchildren. The court established supervised visitation for Mark every other weekend. He showed up on Saturdays at 10 in the morning. He brought store-bought cookies and a guilty look. "Ah!" Margaret told me later that he cried in her kitchen the first weekend, sobbing, uncontrollable. She held him. "He's broken," she said. "But he's my children's father. I'll help him put the pieces back together." I nodded. I did not trust those pieces yet. The cottage sat empty for 11 days. I drove up on July 1st with a notarized donation agreement. Dr. Linda Chen met me at the driveway. She had a clipboard and a hard hat and a smile that did not hide her excitement. "Frank, this is enormous for the research program," she said. "I know," I said. We walked through the cottage together. Every room, the kitchen where Vanessa had forged my name, the living room where she had unpacked her boxes, the front porch where she had changed the locks. I opened every window, let the mountain air sweep through. Linda had already removed the wildlife cameras from inside the cottage. She had relocated them to the forest perimeter. The research would continue. New species, new data, new students. I signed the papers on the oak table I had built in 1992, the table that had held my coffee every morning for 30 years, the table that had watched my family grow. The grandchildren came the next weekend. Margaret drove them up in her minivan, the 5-year-old and the 7-year-old. They burst through the door like a flood, touching everything, asking questions, spotting a deer through the window. "Grandpa, is this your house?" It's a research station now, I said. What's research? I knelt down. Learning, watching, understanding. They nodded like they understood completely. I took them fishing at the lake, the same spot where I had taught their father 30 years earlier. The water was cold and clear, the mountains reflected in the surface. The 7-year-old caught a trout. She held it up proud and shining. Grandpa, look. I helped her release it, watched it swim back into the deep. It's a good place, I said. This is a good place. She looked at me. Can we come every weekend? I smiled. I was hoping you'd ask. The visits became routine. Saturday mornings. Fishing rods, sandwiches, muddy boots by the door. Frank's unpaid assistant researchers, Linda called them. Mark came twice. Both times he stayed on the porch. He did not come inside. The children ran to him, hugged him, pulled him toward the forest. He tried to smile. It did not reach his eyes. The second time, he stood at the edge of the property line, looking at the plaque, looking at the mountain. Dad, he said, Mark. I understand now why you built it, why it mattered. I waited. I spent my whole life trying to keep Vanessa happy. I forgot who I was. You didn't forget, I said. You just stopped listening. He nodded. There was nothing else to say. Margaret started a garden near the research station. Tomatoes and peppers and basil. The children watered it every morning before I drove them home. The soil was thin and rocky. They watered anyway. Vanessa's probation officer called me once. Routine status update. Vanessa was complying with her sentence. Community service at a homeless shelter. Anger management classes. She had not violated any terms. I thanked him and hung up. I have not spoken to her since the hearing. The grandchildren are at the cottage with me tonight. The 5-year-old is asleep on the couch. The 7-year-old is drawing a deer at the kitchen table. The oak table. The one I built in 1992. She looks up. Grandpa, what happened to the bad lady? I am quiet for a moment. She made a choice, I say. And then she had to live with it. That's sad. Sometimes, I say, the saddest thing is standing exactly where you placed yourself. She thinks about that. And she draws another antler. I watch her. The light through the cedar walls, the silence of the forest. The sound of a pencil on paper. This place is not mine anymore. It belongs to them now, to the deer, to the students, to the truth. And that is the only justice worth having. Thank you for listening. If this story made you think, please like and subscribe. I have more. I always have more.